So a really important concept to grasp in maths is when we draw a graph and we've got an x-axis going across the page and we've got a y-axis going vertically up the page. These lines, the y-axis, has an equation of x equals 0 because wherever it is up and down this line, x is always 0. The y values are changing, but x is always 0. And by the same token, on the other line, the x-axis has an equation, and that equation is y equals 0. Because all along this line, the x values are changing, yes, but the y value isn't changing. It's always 0. X equals 0 for the y-axis, y equals 0 for the x-axis. And that's why when we have a quadratic graph, something like this, we can rely on those things to find what we call the roots. In other words, where the quadratic graph crosses the x-axis. And we can also find what we might call the y-intercept of the quadratic graph, where the graph crosses the y-axis, or the line x equals 0. For this particular quadratic, it is y equals x squared minus 2x minus 8. If I want to find these crossing points here on the x-axis, I think of y equals 0. And I can change y to 0. And then I can factorize or use the quadratic formula or my calculator to find the roots. But I can tell you that the roots are at minus 2 here and 8. That's how I find them, by knowing that the x-axis where it's crossing is y equals 0. Y is 0. That's the only thing I've changed. Now what about where it crosses the y-axis? Well, I know that's x equals 0. So if I write out this quadratic again, and then I replace x with 0 because it's on the line x equals 0, the y-axis is the line x equals 0, then I can find out the y value where the quadratic graph crosses. So I say y equals 0 squared minus 2 times 0 minus 8, because I've changed the x's for 0 because we're dealing with the line x equals 0. And so y equals, well, 0 squared is just 0. 2 times 0 is 0. So we're left with y equals minus 8. So we're crossing at y equals minus 8. A really important concept. The y-axis is always x equals 0, and that will help with finding a y-intercept. The x-axis is always y equals 0, and that will help with finding the roots of the quadratic graph, the roots of the equation.